This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and for the next 4 hours, I am your host. I am your guide to this place that I call the X-Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X-Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 8 p.m. until midnight Eastern, right here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and the Starcom Radio Network. If you'd like to give us a call, toll-free, 800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And you can always listen to the X-Zone 724, 365 at www.xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour is a lady I've had the pleasure of having on the show before. Her name is Dr. GILLIAN HOLLOWAY, and she's been on the faculty of Marylhurst University in Portland, Oregon for 20 years. Her research into the meaning of dreams is known internationally, and she is the author of 4 books on working with dream messages to change our lives. Her work has been featured in such great newspapers as the Washington Post, the New York Times, Health Blog, magazines such as Shape, Allure, Cosmopolitan, Self, and Women's World. And she's a veteran, at a very young age, I might add, of over 500 radio and television shows. Joining me right now from Portland, Oregon, is a lady I have the pleasure of calling a friend, Dr. GILLIAN HOLLOWAY. And GILLIAN, welcome back home here to the X-Zone.
Oh, thank you, Rob. It's always so fun to talk to you. I look forward to it.
We look forward to having you back here, Dr. G. So for the listeners who may be hearing about you for the very first time on the Starcom Radio Network, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been having a great time for the last 20 years researching dreams and the types of meanings that they hold for people. Not really putting theories onto dreams, but pulling meaning out of them by large numbers of people and what their dreams have been able to tell them. So my research has been a little bit different, but it's worked out very well, and a lot of people have gotten the benefit of a better understanding of their dreams.
Tell me, I'm going to call you Dr. G because you are a doctor, and I'm going to just call you GILLIAN.
That way you don't have to remember how to say it, too.
Well, not only that, showing you the respect that you've worked so hard to get. That's why.
Okay.
All right, Dr. G. Do we all dream?
Yes, everybody dreams, Rob, unless there's been some severe brain damage or some diminishment of the dream cycle due to medication. We're all dreaming every night, although only about half of us remember our dreams on a regular basis.
Why do we dream?
It's divided. We know that dreams help the brain to function. It helps concentration, learning, and memory. Mm-hmm. So there's a real functional side to it. There is like a housekeeping side to it. But of course, I believe, and a lot of people believe, that dreams also are a kind of thinking. We're thinking in pictures, and that we're trying to put patterns together and solve problems in our dreams. And so that's what I think is one of the prime functions of our dreams.
Is it possible also that when we go to sleep and we are dreaming, we are actually doing a defragmentation of our brain and all the data we have there, and we're actually purging some of it to make room for new data?
Well, if you've ever been in a situation where you had to memorize, if you can remember back in school where you had to memorize, or maybe the first job you ever had was a funky job where you had to put something together or take something apart, and then you dreamed about it. You did it so often that you dreamt about it in your sleep. There's no question that we're trying to sort things out in our dreams, and some of that does seem to be a housekeeping or a defrag that's going on. That doesn't mean that there can't be psychological or even psychic meaning as well, but I think you're right. I think we're cleaning house a little bit occasionally.
I guess that's where that old expression comes from, let me sleep on it.
Yeah.
So tell me, how do we know if a dream is important enough to review for the true meaning of the dream?
Well, if you have the same dream more than twice, and you can see that this is that old thing where I parked my car and I go back and the car's not there. Why do I keep having that? So repetition is one thing, Rob, that kind of gives the show away that it's important. And also if something has a charge. Like you wake up and you think, oh my goodness, why that imagery, or why that shocking thing? So your response to it and the number of times you have the same thing are two big giveaways that a dream could be really focusing in on something that has great relevance to you.
Why do some people say, you know what, I can't remember any dreams. I don't dream at night. There's other people who say, I dream in black and white. Other people who say they dream in color. Does everyone have the same type of dream, but it's interpreted by them differently? And this is why some are black and white, some are color, and others don't remember a dream at all.
Well, what seems to be happening, if we wake someone up in the sleep laboratory and say, okay, what are you dreaming about? Then they'll remember their dreams right then in that instant, and they'll also remember the colors. But if you let them go back to sleep and you wake them up in the morning, they may say, did you dream? And they'll say no. Or you say, well, what was that freight train? Well, it was in black and white. So our memory of dreams tends to fade, and this is a personality thing. There's nothing wrong with it. It's got nothing to do with intelligence. And our memory of color seems to fade as well. So naturally enough, people who are more artistic or who are involved in color in some way tend to have a more of a relationship with color and bright imagery, and so it's easier for them to remember.
As a dream expert, are some dreams actually warnings?
Yes. I do believe that we have two different kinds of warning dreams. One is where the dreaming mind is kind of picking up threat. It's called dream vigilance. And that means, if somebody is acting suspiciously and they consistently are suspicious, you might have a dream in which your mind says, look, this is something to pay attention to and keep an eye on. And that is a kind of hypothetical scenario that the dreaming mind makes. In other instances, as you well know, this is up your street, as they say, we have psychic dreams. We do have precognitive dreams that seem to flash forward in time and give us a glimpse of something. And I believe that this happens, Rob, so that we'll be better prepared for it.
What would happen if a person did not dream?
Well, if we are deprived of the REM cycle, that rapid eye movement cycle type of dreaming, where if you watch a child or a baby or even a kitten or a puppy, and you see their eyeballs are moving back and forth under their eyelids, we know that if you deprive someone of that type of sleep, that pattern in their sleep, they'll actually start to hallucinate after a time. And so it may not only be sleep deprivation that makes us logy and have hallucinations and difficulty concentrating and you can't remember what you were about to say, but lack of dreaming has that effect as well. It's fascinating, really.
It is. Is there a connection between when someone is daydreaming and when they're asleep at night and they're having a sleep time dream?
There are similarities, and the brainwave activity is a little different. We're more active when we're the brain is more active having a nighttime dream. The brain is almost hyper activated or stimulated. That's why they first called dreaming paradoxical sleep, because the brain can become so active. And when we're daydreaming, if you're just sitting and we're taking a break and looking out the window, your brain tends to slow down a little bit more and get into more of an alpha state as you fantasize. So it's a little different internally, even though the content of the dream may be a little bit similar.
What is the physiology of a dream?
You mean how is it triggered physically?
How is it triggered, and what is the physiological or the neuro workings of a dream?
Well, there's a theory called activation synthesis, which is a suggestion that the brain, there's an area in the base of the skull, the pons, where the electrical input seems to be triggered, and that sets off the rapid eye movement dreaming pattern. And those electrical stimuli go through different areas of the brain, and we think that may be why dreams are so random and chaotic, because different parts of the brain get stimulated, memories and so forth, all get glued together into a story that can seem random and chaotic. So that may be part of what's going on physically that makes dreams so strange. And then emotionally and psychologically, we try to explain them by creating a story. So it's almost like a scrapbook or a collage. You've got a bunch of random images, and you put them together in a way that's meaningful to you.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. Because basically, the brain is trying to put things together, and we know that in a waking state, if the brain cannot identify or if something does not make sense to the brain, it will actually go into your psyche, pull something as close to what the circumstance is that will make sense to the brain and slap it into your reality, and away you go.
That's right. I had a teacher of mine had a dream of being run off the road by some there were burglars and bad guys and gangsters, and they all ran him off this road that he used to jog on. Well, a couple of days later, a truck came at him, and the truck driver had conked out and fallen asleep at the wheel, and the truck ran him off the road. But he actually got off the road in advance because he flashed onto his dream, because it was the same part of the road. And he said later, I was having a premonition, but for some reason, instead of a truck, maybe I couldn't get what it was in my future that was going to run me off the road. So my dreaming mind kind of inserted just a bunch of hoodlums and hooligans running me off the road. But he's convinced that it was the same premonition of that stretch of the road, and it really, he thinks, might have saved his life.
There's books out there that say we can interpret your dreams. But my experience has been there are many different books that have different interpretations for the same topic. So how does one learn to interpret their own dreams?
Well, that's a great question, and you've got the answer right there, is that we each have to learn how to interpret our own. And one way to do that is to keep a kind of log or journal of your dreams. If you're the kind of person that likes to make notes or keep a journal like that, that's a great way to just start seeing the patterns. Because we have general trends in the imagery of our dreams that tend to hold true in modern life. Things having to do with elevators, things having to do with the car running off the road, where you're headed in your life, and that kind of thing. The metaphors are fairly straightforward, even though they're symbolic. You can see the logic. But in other instances, the imagery is very idiosyncratic or individual. So some people will identify with a particular animal. They won't do it consciously, but they'll dream a lot of cats, or they'll dream a lot of dogs, or horses, or birds. And when that person is in trouble, they'll often dream of that animal being in trouble. And they'll say, why do I keep dreaming of starving cats, or cats that have been abused, or cats that have been, terrible things happening to them? And the dreamer is actually dreaming about herself. And it's a kind of a cry from the dreaming mind to say, pay attention. If you found a stray cat in the kind of shape that you're in, you would stop and rescue it. Why don't you stop and rescue yourself, or give yourself a break, or think about this problem, take it more seriously?
So it seems like many dreams are like a reflection of one's own circumstances, but in a way that the mind or the psyche is trying to get you to take a look at it and recognize it and rectify the problems.
That's exactly what I feel is going on, Rob, and that's why dreams are worth our time. It's not only that they could be symbolic and they could reflect something, but that there is almost a coaching or a benevolence to the dreaming process. It is biased toward fulfillment, towards survival and getting ahead and having a relationship and having that relationship survive, having your family survive. There's definitely an agenda here, and it is an agenda that's on our own behalf.
Exonation, my guest this hour is Dr. Gillian Holloway. We're talking about dreams. And Dr. Gillian's website is www.flashofspirit.com. Doctor, how can we tell if a dream is a psychic dream or a symbolic dream?
Well, that's $1 million question, and one of the ways to do it is to, if you can, keep track of your dreams a bit and notice what is typical for you. Most people who have a psychic dream that is really important to them, it turns out to make a difference in their lives, they will say later, I knew at the time I had the dream that there was something important about it because it was so vivid, or because it was colored differently. One man just said to me, it's like the cinematographer was different in this particular dream because of the way it appeared. And also sometimes we'll feel stronger, we'll have a more of an emotional impact when a dream is psychic, whether it has to do with something, your brother who lives on the other side of the world, or whether it is a warning for you. The psychic dreams tend to pack a wallop, and that's one way to understand that this dream in particular could be very important. And I recommend you, if you have something like that and you're not sure about it, record as much as you can about it, or draw a little sketch of it so that you don't lose it, and then come back to it in a day or so, because often we'll be upset or rattled or scared or even infuriated by a dream. It's hard to think clearly. It's like thinking clearly in the midst of an argument. You want to calm down and come back the next day and say, okay, let's take another pass at this.
Right.
What could this be?
Is it possible for people to share the same dream? For example, we know that the people at the Ryan Research Center are finding that people can share thoughts. If we can share thoughts, is it possible to share dreams?
It is possible. It's very, very exciting research that people are doing now, and they call it shared dreaming or mutual dreaming, and it's been explored for a few years now. And some people are able to say, okay, let's you and I meet in the dream landscape, and we'll try to do it tonight. And if it doesn't work tonight, we'll try to do it next week. And they will practice and practice and practice until they can meet up in the dream landscape. And the purpose behind this is not really to prove that it can be done, but rather to experiment and say, well, if we can go to a place in our dreams and meet there and we're lucid, then what might we be able to accomplish? And so they're working on everything from crime prevention to world peace to volunteer work to designing, sources for water and farming and all kinds of things to try and improve the planet. So there's a lot of possibilities if we can psychically hook up,
Right.
that we could accomplish something.
I remember as a kid reading the back of the comic books where they had all these different classified ads, and there was always something there that you could put into your pillow, put your head on, plug it into a tape recorder, and you could actually learn while you're asleep. Is that possible?
You know, it's kind of sketchy results. It works very well for some people, and for others not as well, and for still others, absolutely nothing happens. But yes, it does seem to be something that we can launch. We can certainly launch into our dreams through listening to something as we fall asleep, or even reading something before you fall asleep, or even watching television before you fall asleep. That seems to be a trigger or a catalyst for our dreams to go in a certain direction. And it's a great idea if you have a problem to focus on. It's called dream incubation, as I'm sure you know, and you can target a direction that you want your dreams to go towards so that you can have the benefit of this other half of your intelligence, this more intuitive half, creative and telepathic half, to look at something in the dream state if you've been racking your brains while you're awake. And I think it's a fabulous idea.
Many people claim that they receive communication from the dead in a dream state when they're dreaming. Is it that they are really receiving messages from the dead, or is this part of the mind's grieving process that they miss this person so much, whether or not they consciously are aware of the fact that they miss this person so much, that the brain is that they are going back into their database and bringing some of that information back, replaying it in a dream to soothe themselves?
You know, that's the great question, and that's the great argument. In my opinion, certainly we have grief dreams, and certainly we have what are called grief relief dreams. That's where if you lost your grandmother, you might go to bed and dream of her, and it would all have been some kind of mistake, and she hadn't really passed away after all. She had just gone into the witness protection program. And you can see that the mind is clutching at something, some hope, some residual plot from a bad movie to make it not be so. And so that's a typical grief dream. But what people are talking about when they're having what we call after-death communication dreams are qualitatively completely different. And I've been looking at these dreams for the last 6 years or so in some depth, and thousands of them. And I'm convinced that these are a different animal. They're just a different creature. And some of the things that make them different are that the person who is deceased is much younger, often much younger in these dreams. And it's more typical when you're grieving to dream of someone looking the way you would expect them to look. If your mind is making this up, often people will run into someone and they're familiar, and then they'll go, "Mom?" And all of a sudden, Mom is 30 years old in this state. Now, that is not something the dreamer really would have constructed. That's a surprise. And the theory is that when we cross over, we become younger. We age in reverse until we're young and healthy and whole again. So that's a shock, and that's a surprise, and that's one of the differences. The other difference is that often the dreamer is lucid. He or she knows that this is a dream. And they'll ask the departed. They'll say, "Dad, aren't you dead? Is this just a dream?" And the departed will answer them and say, "Well, yeah, I'm kind of dead, but not. And yes, this is a dream, but I'm really here. This is really happening."
That's fascinating.
And so they become, it's just not dreamlike. If you'll pardon the expression, they're very, very different.
Talk about lucid dreaming. I have a dream within a dream within a dream within a dream. And I know that I am 3 dreams down. And the way that I have taught myself to realize if I am dreaming or not is to try to read something. When I look at a newspaper or a sign, it makes no sense. I know I'm dreaming, and the fun begins.
Oh, so you're the guy that they made that movie about a few years back, right? With all the dreams within the dreams.
I didn't see that one, but did somebody take my autobiography and that I don't know about? No.
I bet so.
I've always been able to do this.
Something like insertion or something like that. But anyway, yes, that's a great lucidity trigger. I love that, trying to read something, because it turns out that our what do you call it? It's the alphabet and then alphanumeric stuff doesn't come through very well in the dream state at all. So that's a great trigger. I like that a lot better than just looking at your hands. That doesn't seem to. I forget to do that all the time.
Like when I come to what I would call my conscious state within the dream, and I think I'm in a dream, I will look for a sign, I will look for a newspaper, I will look for a restaurant to try and read the menu. You know, and it's like, okay, let's have fun now. Whee!
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So then you can try out your flying techniques and all kinds of things. Yeah. Yeah.
Is it then possible that we can actually program our dreams to some extent?
You know, to some extent, that's the key word. And it's interesting, the model is that we want to be able to control them completely, although I don't know why. I'm not sure that would be optimal, truly. What seems to happen and be more interesting is that people become lucid.
Right.
Then they can, they have these special powers, but there is still an element to the dream that is its own landscape, so to speak, its own reality with internally consistent rules and a setup.
Right.
And so it's like visiting a strange land and being a superhuman at the same time. So it makes me suspect that one of the things that dreams are doing for us is challenging us and letting us excel over and over and over again. I suspect that there's a kind of personal evolution that's going on in our dreams. And that's why they test us, and yet they also allow us to transcend them repeatedly. And so it's like a holographic game in which the product of the game is your own evolution.
Dr. Gillian Holloway is my guest. Her website is www.flashofspirit.com. Gillian, you and I have to take a commercial break with the news at the bottom of the hour. We'll be right back, X-Zone Nation. We're talking about dream this hour. And in my humble opinion, the only difference between a dream and reality is doing it. The dream is the thought. Busting your butt is the way to make it turn into reality. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and around the world on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and the Starcom Radio Network. Don't go away. Ever wondered if your advertising dollar is really working for you? If your ad would have been here, you and more than 4 million people would be listening to it right now. Contact ads at xzoneradiotv.com. Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com.
I'm William S. Peckham. If you enjoy a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love my novel, From Out of the Woodwork. It's the story of a young Toronto contractor, Sean Kennedy, who buys derelict homes, guts them, and turns them into multi-family dwellings. Slums just waiting to happen. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, the house fights back. Former owners unexpectedly come out of the woodwork as he starts the destruction. The apparitions come to him when he touches old books, reads hidden letters, rummages through old boxes, finds a locket, or reads a discovered manuscript of a murder mystery. From Out of the Woodwork will take you from 1899 to the horror of the World Trade Center, September 11, 2001. Check out From Out of the Woodwork on my website, www.williamspeckham.com.
The ability to access the knowledge of the universe is much easier for us to access than we may believe. Brad Johnson, Conscious Matrix Communicator, is one of these unique individuals who is able to access a strong connection to the universal mind. Through his connection, Brad has assisted thousands of clients from all over the world through natural intuitive assistance. The intuitive information received is vast, covering a wide range of subjects. Brad's innate ability includes being able to access one's own universal matrix to help them realize their potential to create a life of profound greatness. One-on-one private sessions with Brad Johnson are available to anyone from around the world. Brad is also a proficiently trained psychic, Akashic Records reader, an online spiritual teacher, founder of his own unique and powerful healing system, Body Regeneration Healing, as well as a professional conscious channeler in communication with his own higher self-consciousness known as Adronis. For more information or to book a service appointment with Brad Johnson, visit his website at www.consciousmatrix.com. That's www.consciousmatrix.com.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. Dr. GILLIAN Holloway is our special guest. Her website is flashofspirit.com. We're talking about dream this hour here in the X-Zone. First of all, GILLIAN, thanks very much for joining us. Always great having you with us.
Thank you.
Everybody's interested in dreams. There is not a person that I have had the pleasure of talking to over the past 24 years, whether it's ghost hauntings, alien abductions, you name it. Everyone still talks about dreams. So let me ask you this. Why are some dreams so violent, rough, or turbulent, even if the person themselves isn't?
Well, one of the reasons seems to be that the dreaming mind uses the human body as a symbol or a metaphor. So if something happens to your business by day, it might happen to your body in a dream.
Oh, God help me.
Or if something if something happens to your feelings, or someone betrays you, you would be more likely to dream of getting stabbed in the back. And if you think about it, everything happening to the body, limbs getting torn off, or people having sex with strange partners, or having children, or all these things happening to the body, it tends to make for some gory, sometimes gross, sometimes funny, but very stark and striking dreams.
Can exploring a person's dreams on a regular basis change us the way meditation, spiritual studies, or yoga can? Or is it all part and parcel of the same thing, since yoga, meditation, spiritual studies all affect the human psyche?
Well, I think a couple of things happen when we study our dreams, or we develop what is tantamount to a relationship with that part of our own intelligence. And one of the things that happens is that the dreams tend to smooth out and even out. I have a fair number of people who come into my groups where we share and study and dialogue about dreams because they're having bad dreams, and they're worried that means there's something wrong with them, or there's something terrible about their life that they're not aware of. And what happens when they will discuss their nightmares is their dreams actually calm down. So it appears that one byproduct of our busy life and our not paying attention to ourselves, so to speak, may be nightmares. That is this other half of your intuitive mind, whatever you want to call it, your deeper mind, your super mind. If we ignore it long enough, there tends to be more drama, heightened drama, both in our life experiences and in our dreams. So just coming to dream group or writing down your dreams, talking about them more regularly, that is one of the best cures, and I say that in quotation marks, for nightmares. So that's one thing that can happen. And the other is that we develop an understanding about ourselves and what makes us tick on an individual level. That's what I call self-psychology. And it's just understanding what kind of a critter you are, basically, what is fulfilling and what is aggravating. And we really don't have a good understanding of who we are at this time in life. We're much too busy trying to survive and make a buck.
Yeah.
And we've forgotten to understand, if you're an introvert or a quiet soul, you have certain talents and gifts and certain needs. And if you're more extroverted, the same holds true. So understanding yourself is still a really important piece of the puzzle.
Over the years that you've been doing research on dreams, and probably the thousands upon thousands of people that you've spoken to, is there a connection between reincarnation and something that people may dream about?
I suspect very much that there is. And I don't think we need to get too weirded out about that at all.
No.
If that is the way it works, if we do come back lifetime after lifetime, then that's perfectly natural. And so if we have a dream that seems to contain a scene from a past life, the question might not be, gee, could that have been a past life? It's an intriguing question. But probably the smart question is, why am I having this dream at this time? It's not just because it happened.
Right.
I mean, that's interesting. But other dreams about things that have happened in the past arise because they give us an advantage today. So where is the advantage to seeing this scene, to replaying this? Gotcha. Is there an implication or a takeaway? And I think if you look at it that way, you cut right to the bottom line. And you can say, maybe this is telling me to be more careful. If I died from carelessness and fell from a dam, as they say, maybe this is telling me to be more careful today. So, I'm not trying to dodge the big question of whether or not we come back. Right. I frankly think we do. But I think the question is, why this dream at this time, and where's the advantage for me?
Let me ask you the question of the sexes. Do men and women dream differently?
Well, we know that women tend to have a little bit of an advantage as far as remembering their dreams for no reason that we can figure out. They tend to have better recall on average. But as far as the content of our dreams, Rob, there's some research that indicates men tend to have more dreams taking place in an outdoor setting, whereas women tend to have more dreams that take place indoors. But those types of differences in imagery I don't think are terribly crucial to understand. Both men and women are focusing on avoiding threat and on gaining an advantage or resolving a problem, achieving a goal. So as an individual, male or female, we're all trying to stay away from the bad stuff, and we're all trying to find and rediscover the good stuff.
There you go. Dr. Gillian Holloway is our special guest this hour, X Zone Nation, flashofspirit.com. You're listening to yours truly, Rob McConnell, here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and around the world on the X Zone Broadcast Network and our good friends at Starcom Radio Network. Is it a bad sign, in your opinion, Dr. Gillian, if a person cannot remember their dreams?
No, I don't think it's a bad sign at all. It's more of a personality type and a lifestyle phenomenon. Turns out the busier we are and the less time we have for any kind of check-in internally, the less likely we are to remember our dreams. But it's perfectly normal for, like I said, about 50% of the population doesn't remember them on a regular basis. If you want to remember your dreams, paying some attention to them, talking about them, listening to programs like this, that's a great place to start. I had one man that came to a class years ago, and he had not remembered a dream for 40 years.
40 years.
And yes, and I thought to myself, but I didn't say, what in the world are you doing taking this class, and why would you be interested? But I taught him the dream incubation technique, which is just to ask for the type of dreams you want as you're falling asleep. And he did that night, and he began dreaming that night after 40 years.
Wow.
So it's very possible. Apparently, like so many of our abilities and strengths and powers, when we pay attention and roll up our sleeves and decide, I'm going to try to make this work, there is a response in the human psyche that seems like magic because it responds so quickly.
What would cause a person to have a recurring dream?
You know, recurring dreams are, in my opinion, one of the most important things about dreams to pay attention to. So if you take away anything from our conversation this hour, please, if you're listening, pay attention to your recurring dreams and themes. They often occur because of a situation in our current life situation that is a bit of a sticky wicket. It's something that's not only challenging, but it's challenging in a way that makes it difficult for you to handle. And that's usually what is causing a recurring dream. For example, being in a situation where you want to leave a relationship, but it's just not functionally possible for monetary reasons or for the reasons of the family or whatever. So you've got a problem and you got a solution that you can't grab hold of. That's typically what's causing a recurring dream. But often, in the recurring dream itself, there will be a clue. There will be something that tells you, you know, this is a short-term situation. You can still plan for the long-term, do what you can to prepare to change it. And so it's never just saying, oh, you're stressed, I'm going to give you more stressful dreams at night just to try and completely wear you out. That is not, we must always assume that nature has a functional attribute to whatever it's doing and to look for the positive potential in that functional attribute. So I think recurring dreams are not only reflecting what's going on, but they're trying to help us solve what's going on.
Over the years teaching about dreams and researching about dreams, have you learned anything about dreams that have totally surprised you?
Yes, probably the most surprising thing is that dreams have a preparatory or a developmental quality to them. So wherever you are in the lifespan, from 5 years old to 95 years old, the dreams tend to change in their focus, and the plot of the dream changes, and the type of challenges and the things we're moving towards change. So it's as though every 5 or 10 years we have a reset button that says, okay, you're not worried about what other people are thinking like you were when you were 9. Mm-hmm. Now you're worried about what is most important and what can I do in the remaining years of my lifespan. So dreams are gearing us up for the next big thing in the coming decade or the coming years that we have. So they really seem to be helping to pull us forward into whatever we ought to be focusing on next. That surprised me.
Do blind people dream?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And depending on whether they have been blind from birth, whether the blindness is complete, they may have auditory dreams or sensory dreams where they can feel their location in space and they'll hear voices and so on. If they've lost their sight later in life, they'll still have remembered visualization in the dreams to some extent.
Over the years doing this show, two dreams that I have heard most about. Number one, people standing in front of a crowd of people naked. The second one, men dreaming that their penises have fallen off.
Oh. Well, I'm so glad you brought those up.
You sound a little shocked.
No.
No, Dr. Gillian, this is not a bad dream. This is real.
Well, first of all, those types of dreams are pretty common.
Really?
Especially showing up somewhere naked.
Yeah.
It's called naked in public. We even have names for some of these dreams, and they're considered classics. And that one tends to have to do with being in a situation where the dreamer may feel that they're in the spotlight for some reason. And it isn't so much a sexual or even a racy dream as it is about feeling transparent. And it doesn't imply that the dreamer is inadequate or unprepared. Rather, it is usually a dream that people have when they are thrust into the limelight because of their capabilities and their leadership abilities, or, they got a promotion, so to speak. That's usually when people have the naked in public dream, is when something goes well and they start their own business or they get a promotion, they move forward, and then they feel a little bit sheepish about it because they're like, well, why would I be having this bad dream if I've had this good thing happen? That is often a type of a stress that we feel before we've grown into our new situation. So it's pretty normal, and I'm glad you brought that one up.
All right, how about the penis falling off?
Okay, let's get to the penis falling off. Usually when body parts fall off, it has to do with a sense of temporary loss.
Gotcha.
So it might be sexual, and it might be power related as well, because there's a lot going on with genitalia and parts in our dreams falling off or getting lost or not functioning when we want them to, and it often has to do with a sense of power and a temporary loss of power. If there's anything we don't like as human beings, it's loss of control or loss of power. Those are much more frightening than fear of death, actually. If you think about it, it's kind of crazy. But those are actually the things that we're afraid of.
Since there have been an increase in Wi-Fi, in wireless communication, microwave towers, cell towers, have you noticed a difference in the dream patterns that are being researched by yourself and other researchers?
Well, I think that our dreams are getting a little bit more. What I do notice is that they're coming in cluster. There's a cluster effect that I hadn't noticed, say, 20 or 15 years ago. And that is, I get dreams coming in over the transom, so to speak. They're coming in off of my website in large numbers, and I can see in a given week that there will be a particular image that's unusual. People finding babies floating in the bathtub, and I think, well, that's unusual. Yeah. And then 5 or 10 more people will have the same dream across the world, and I think, well, that's kind of odd. Or eating ground glass, or being electrocuted by your refrigerator. Some off-the-wall image, and it spreads through our dreams. And so I don't know if the electronics are enhancing our telepathy, or if there is a general quickening response that's going on with our dream imagery. But I just call it the cluster effect, and I have been noticing that more recently. It's growing.
Is there one dream that stands out in your research that most people have?
Oh, sure. Yeah. The dream of having your teeth fall out, and that's more common really from the age 15 to about 35 or 40. And it's a stress dream, where you feel you push with your tongue and one of your teeth loosens,
right,
and then boom, it pops out. And then several of them pop out, and there you are, maybe with a handful of teeth and a mouth that's dripping blood, or it might be less dramatic than that. But that's a very common anxiety dream that people report, and it tends to coincide with being in a situation that's not going to be resolved quickly, where a certain compromise is necessary, and the dream seems to be a warning that says, look, you may stick with this job because it's the only job in town and you got to stick with it, but you want to keep your eye on the horizon and not stick with it permanently, because there's a certain erosion that's occurring, and that's an erosion to the best part of the self. It's something that you don't want to lose, something that would be irreplaceable. And that seems to be what the warning of the dream is. People in the service, they're overseas, people who are in college and don't want to be in college, people in relationships they'd rather get out of, people who are working at a high level and they're making so much money they can't leave because they can't replace their income if they go to a different job. All sorts of scenarios that are completely unique, but the stressor of being in a situation where you have to compromise, but you just don't want to compromise for too long. And that seems to be what strikes the chord. So
not only is stress bad for us physically, but it's also bad for us emotionally, and it's also bad for us in our dreams.
That's exactly right.
My gosh.
And it's not just stress. We can pretty much handle anything, including a life or death situation. People are pretty resourceful, pretty tough, and pretty courageous when it comes right down to it. What we can't seem to handle are these binds, these double binds or catch-22 type of stressors, where you have to fix it, but you can't because of another reason. But you got to, but you can't. And when you find yourself in that kind of a thing, that's the thing that shreds the insides of a human being. And so I think our dreams are encouraging us to say, look, it may seem like the best bet, but there's a big difference between a short-term tactic and a long-term life strategy, and don't get the two confused.
Do you give courses online?
I do. Bless your heart for asking. I have a lot of online classes that I do. I'm doing some almost every week now, and they're very affordable and low cost. And then I have professional trainings where people can study dreams and get certified to work with them.
Wow.
Once a year I do something like that. So if you go to Flash of Spirit, you can see all the classes lined up there, and some of them I have recordings of. So if you just want to get the recording and check it out, you can do that. It's all there on the website.
Gillian, our time is nearly up, but I have to ask you, what is your message tonight for the worldwide listening audience of the X Zone Nation?
Oh, pay attention to your dreams, and don't ever be afraid of them. Don't have a morbid fear of them, because they're working on your side. This is an alliance with your internal genius, in effect, quite really, and very, very worth your time. So hang in there and decode them if you can.
Gillian, thanks so much for coming on the show tonight. It is always such a great pleasure having you on with us. I'd love to have you back on again in the near future, not like the last time, but the near future, so you and I can further discuss the wonderful world of dreams.
Thank you, Rob. It would be my pleasure. Let's stay in touch.
You bet. Take care, Gillian. X Zone Nation, my guest this hour has been Dr. Gillian Holloway, www.flashofspirit.com. When I come back from the news at the top of the hour at 6.5 minutes past the hour, more of the X Zone right here on the radio station you're listening to, whether it's one of our broadcast affiliates, whether it's the X Zone Broadcast Network, or whether it's the Starcom Radio Network. We'll be back, because this is a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, and we come to you Monday through Friday from 8 p.m. Eastern until midnight on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and the Starcom Radio Network and our growing family of broadcast affiliates right around the world. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away.